This is Miller Philosopher. Every time I revisit The Lord of the Rings, something new always jumps out at me. Not just because the story changes, but also because I do. I too also change and evolve and so on. And so, this rewatch of Fellowship with the Ring in theaters, a single line from Bilbo hit me harder than it's ever had before actually. A line that I think reveals something deeper about the One Ring and something haunting about the fate of the Numenoreans, actually. It's a moment that we all remember, but this time it opened a door, for me anyway, to a much bigger idea. And it's the scene early on where Gandalf visits Bilbo, and Bilbo is trying to explain how he's been feeling inside. How unnatural it feels to be living such an unusually long time for a hobbit.
I feel it in my heart. I feel thin, sort of stretched, like butter scraped over too much bread.
And this line has always been memorable to me, but this time it struck me differently. It's like Bilbo's feeling his soul or spirit being stretched out, almost like Mr. Fantastic, pulled thinner and thinner over the years, and that this tension has been bothering him for a long time, getting worse and sharper and more intrusive with each passing year. He feels as if only taking a long journey, getting away from the Shire, might relieve that tension a little bit. And what came to mind while watching this familiar scene was actually one of the first videos that I ever made for this channel. That was on why I thought the Valar's choice for making the Numenoreans immortal adjacent, as it were, or at least dramatically long-lived than other humans, was a mistake. Because mortals, no matter how advanced or accomplished they are not built for the supernatural realities that came with the blessings of immortality. The unseen nature, the relationships, and so on that are just too awe-inspiring or terrifying for that matter. And elves and the residents of Valinor live in a world where the unseen is normal. They're attuned to it, they're shaped by it. But mortals, on the other hand, are blissfully unaware of those deeper layers of reality. And when you listen to the elves describe their immortality, in fact, it sounds more like a mixture of a blessing and a curse, a beauty and a burden that are intertwined like DNA, growing heavier as time seems to pass on. And it strikes me now that Bilbo was actually experiencing that very sensation a full age later than the Fall of Numenor. Not because he was in Valinor as of yet, but because of the One Ring, an object in itself that was tied directly to an immortal from an immortal realm. The ring was stretching his soul and his self-awareness of what was happening, those unseen realities, pulling him toward and more deeper into the unseen realm, thinning out his spirit in ways that no hobbit or dwarf or man was ever meant to endure. And in fact, I think what happened to Bilbo is a small hobbit-sized preview of what would have happened to the Numenorean army in Valinor had they basically survived and not had a mountain dropped on them. Only for them, it would be far more intense and far more overwhelming because, like the One Ring in Mount Doom, immortality in Valinor is where that sensation will be at its strongest and most powerful. Or as the saying goes, a moth drawn to a flame. A powerful and overwhelming sense of self-awareness about themselves and that reality stretched out over time, but in a place where time feels completely different. It doesn't run the same necessarily. A consciousness that is pulled too thin. At first, maybe it might be blunted by the supernatural beauty of Valinor, the light, the music, the perfection, and everything that you see, smell, and hear. But pretty soon, in my opinion, since they're in Valinor, that tension would grow. The mortal spirit wasn't designed to exist in a place where time doesn't erode the body, where the soul doesn't get to rest, and where the unseen presses in on the person's being from all sides, in all ways, and on all levels, where both time passes and at the same time does not pass. And that leads me to another thought, actually. I wonder if what happened to the ring race, disappearing into the unseen realm, yet still capable of interacting on the mortal plane, is also what would have become of the Numenorean army as well, if that's not also too some sort of small preview into that. It wouldn't be instantly or dramatically per se, but gradually, as their mortal nature is strained against the immortal environment around them. The ring race, after all, didn't die, and they didn't live either. They were stretched, pulled, existence so thinned out that they existed now in two separate realms at once, belonging to neither. And that feels eerily similar to what Bilbo described in that quiet moment in Bag End. But whatever the case, I think this little hobbit in his cozy home deep in the Shire may have lived a faint echo of the final days of a people long extinct. A glimpse of what happens when mortals brush too close to immortality, and the unseen realm reaches out and pulls them in. And all of it wrapped up in that one simple line: I feel thin, like butter scraped over too much bread. A line that, once you really think about it, might be one of the most quietly terrifying things that Tolkien ever wrote. But let me know your own thoughts below. This is Miller Philosopher. Have a good day.